One of the most dangerous threats to our nation's security is the possibility of attack by high-speed enemy bombers armed with nuclear weapons. These bombers can strike at supersonic speeds from many directions and altitudes to confuse our defense and delay the dispatch of interceptor weapons. At radar stations which blanket our country, at distant early warning stations, and other outlying radar observation posts, the enemy aircraft would be detected and tracked on huge plotting boards.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Storm Cellar. For those of you who aren't familiar with the United States air defense system, for decades, it was what kept America safe from air-breathing nuclear attack and unwanted or unauthorized aircraft entering the U.S. Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ. Well, today I'm honored to interview Colonel Retired Gary Breedlove. Colonel Breedlove had an entire U.S. Air Force career dedicated mostly to air defense, which includes a myriad of weapons systems from the beginning to what we know today. So now let's go to beautiful Callaway Gardens for an interview with Colonel Breedlove and get his perspective of his career in air defense. All righty, well, we're here in beautiful Callaway Gardens with Colonel Retired Gary Breedlove, an old friend of mine and mentor from many years ago. And one of the things I'd like to talk to today is about NORAD and Air Defense Command and the things that kept America safe for many years that Gary was an integral part of. So welcome, Gary.
Thank you, Noah. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. You started your career in Air Defense Command in Sioux City, Iowa. Tell me a little bit about the system back then that you worked on.
Well, there we were in the heartland. We believe the state tree of Iowa is the cornstalk. But more importantly, we were in SAGE, semi-automatic ground environment. It was the first attempt in the United States to digitize radar signals from each radar site into one computer, a vacuum tube computer that took up like a floor space of a couple of 1,000 feet. And it had it all digitized, and you got a display with all the different radar sites from your region that you could control aircraft and watch enemy or whatever you had to do. But the system was designed to accommodate 15 seconds of what basically cycle time or frame time. That would handle all the procedures on 5-second subsets. The problem was, since the vacuum tube, the more processing you had, the more radar signals, the more data, whatever, the count would go 15 seconds up. And eventually, in an exercise, large-scale exercise, you would have maybe up to 45 seconds, and it was really slow. So when it hit 45, everybody knew it was not going to be long before the system crumps and goes down. And that would happen on simulated or large-scale exercises. But
Each direction center has a training and battle simulation room. Data inserted in the computer simulate enemy attacks so that men and equipment can be evaluated and skills developed. The mock attack information is also displayed in the air surveillance room, where operators track the aircraft. In the identification room, the enemy planes are identified. And in the weapons room, mock interceptions are made. Thus, men and equipment are readied and trained for battle.
good first go.
Yeah. You were on a TAC-eval team for Air Defense Command's Numbered Air Force. What exactly did you do on that?
Well, after Sioux City, we went to a TAC-eval team in 10th Air Force, and that's basically a larger region of geography. And our job was to go out and check radar squadrons and check other SAGE units, the different SAGE units, and then fighter squadrons, either individually as units or in an exercise to place people in the control center for SAGE and at the fighter squadrons and test the system, see how well they reacted and how things work. Keep them on their toes. Basically.
Right. Well, after you came back from the Vietnam War, you did a staff tour at NORAD headquarters. What was your job there?
NORAD ADCOM. By then we'd gone for ADC. People say ADC was dead. That's technical Correct, because it become ADCOM. And so I was on a NORAD ADCOM operational readiness inspection team. So we traveled the entire continent, Alaska, Canada, and a little over 48, doing basically the same thing as Tackett Valve, but on a larger scale, more units and bigger teams to handle that. Did that for 2 years.
You was on also headquarters TAC as a AWACS liaison. Was that when we were bringing on the AWACS initially?
Right. Well, AWACS came into the system conceptually as an air defense operation to be used to, reach out the radar signals into the northern part of the continental United States and Canada. And as I was at NORAD ADCOM, I transitioned from ORI to plans. And I started working AWACS, and then myself and a computer programmer were sent to TAC headquarters as liaison officers on AWACS because the program was shifting in importance from ADCOM or strategic to tactical air command. So we went there to kind of keep our foot in the door, and we were welcomed pretty well. We were basically spies to see what TAC was doing with the program to make sure that we stayed as a part of what was going on with AWACS. And that's how, during those 3 years there, that I learned to read upside down. You'd go in and talk to somebody you knew in plans or requirements or whatever. And as you're talking to them, you're looking down at their desk trying to read what they got going on. So it was an interesting tour. They were hard-working folks at TAC. They had a lot of things going on, a lot of new airplanes coming in, and they were busy bees.
After you went to Air Command and Staff College, graduated there, you were selected for command in Alaska.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about what it was like to be
everybody at that time, in our career field, glad to get a command. They're rare to get commands. And so happy to get that. But I was at Fort Yukon, Alaska, which is about 140 miles north of Fairbanks. It wasn't one of the first threat radar sites along the coast, but there were 13 radar sites in Alaska, and it was basically radar. There was no combined data or control center other than just radios and plotting boards and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So we spent a year there. Fort Yukon is a cold place in the winter, 68 below, and a warm place in the summer. The midnight sun, 24 hours of daylight, was 102 in the summertime.
Oh, goodness.
But we it was manual radar, and we had mostly Air Force, but we had contract support on most of the logistical and supplies and support mechanism through a contract.
Was that all tied into NORAD and Colorado Springs?
Oh yeah, it was related. They forward data back and forth. It's part of NORAD. Mm-hmm. But it was Alaskan Air Command, was commanded by a 3-star general.
Okay, yeah. You went to AWACS as a lieutenant colonel.
Right.
Was that considered part of the air defense asset at the time?
Well, we're used a lot for air defense exercises and in Alaska and in the continental United States. But I'd been at the War College, and I got word there that I was going to AWACS. And I, 3 years at TAC headquarters working on the development areas. My first thought was, does it work? Because there were, we had a lot of things to do during development. We weren't sure it's going to be deployable without half the Boeing aircraft going with us for support. Right. But I was surprised to see it worked. It worked well. We did exercises in continental United States with air defense units with SOCs, regional control centers around the United States, and with a lot of tactical exercises. But the AWACS, as you well know, was deployed worldwide, just about anywhere you could go. It was sort of the Air Force's equivalent to an aircraft carrier. Right. AWACS shows up, hey, we're watching, so
that's right.
Careful what you do.
One heck of an asset. Well, you culminated your career at Tyndall Air Force Base as the SOC director, Sector Operations Control Center director for the Southeast Air Defense Sector. Tell me a little bit about that, because I was your chief of stand eval there. Right,
and that's what pushed us over the top. Being an excellent unit there. one of the interesting things about going to the SOC at Tyndall, well, a couple of things. One,
let me tell you, we did get, when I was your chief stand of vow, we did get an outstanding on our NORAD inspection.
I think you've told me that before.
I'd remind you.
Drop me a text on it too, please. We had from Texas around the Gulf, Florida, and up the East Coast, with all those sites, radar sites, feeding data into the Sector Operations Control Center at Tyndall, and watching for air sovereignty and drug interdiction was an important role during those years. And I was impressed that a lot of the staff, yourself included, Al Stone, who was a strong right-hand operations, and a lot of brilliant, maybe that's too strong, but a lot of really strong young lieutenants that went on. And I don't know, you probably know better than I do because you're closer to them at the time, as to how many made full colonel, which is...
There were a lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
So that was a rewarding tour. And I wasn't ready to get out of the Air Force, but a friend of mine got fired over in Japan, and the 3-star general that fired him wanted somebody the next day, and I was the next day guy, they'd have thought. But I had to study that and made a decision to change from blue suit to civilian suit.
Yeah. Well, it was a big loss for the Air Force, but your contributions were just unbelievable to air defense and to the career field of air battle managers.
Well, I go back to SAGE, but I don't go back all the way to the Ground Observer Corps. So I don't have the original status that some people do.
Out there with binoculars and
watching, calling it in.
All right. Okay, well, that pretty much wraps it up, but I really appreciate it, Colonel Breedlove, and appreciate your service to the country, and thanks for giving us this interview.
For sure. I appreciate what you're doing
Thanks,
to help
sir.
people understand some things about the Air Force.
Thank you, sir.
2 Russian nuclear-capable bombers were intercepted by American F-22 jets near Alaska on Saturday, the North American Aerospace Defense Command disclosed. However, the 2 Russian Tu-95 bomber aircraft were intercepted and monitored by the F-22s until the bombers left the ADIZ along the Aleutian Island chain heading west. One other official speculated that the bombers were practicing cruise missile strikes on the U.S. missile defenses in Alaska.
Well, I hope you enjoyed my interview with Colonel Breedlove. He is truly a great American who served his country in war and peacetime. Okay, I'll leave it there. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And let me know what you think by leaving your comments below. So remember, until next time, always make sure your takeoff and landings equal.